Unapologetic with Alan-Micheal. Welcome to the first episode of my podcast. I first decided to start a podcast back in May. I want to do book reviews and how they are relevant to current happenings in the country, world. I read a ton during the COVID shutdowns, and people kept asking me how the book was or tell me when you finish it so I can read it or whatever. So I thought this would be the best way to do it. Then a couple things happened that made me feel like the timing wasn't right to release the episode that I had recorded. Biden told the black community, if you didn't vote for him, you weren't black. George Floyd was murdered by a law enforcement officer that shouldn't have still been a law enforcement officer. The left started pandering to the black community. Black Lives Matter made their comeback tour with only caring for black lives killed by whites while staying silent while a black life is taken by another black person. And lastly, I made a fake Facebook post out there staying quiet about all those current events at the time because I couldn't deal with the fakeness I was seeing from everyone, white, black, and all those in between. With that Facebook post, I was attacked, but I didn't back down. So what did I say to get people all up in arms? I spoke things that some black people, or people in general, don't dig deeply enough to think about. And I'll read it to you what I said. So on June 2nd, I posted the following. I haven't said much, but as I sit here and ponder and look at your post, I realize one thing: fakeness. From both sides, all races. Let's start by saying that I think the country as a whole can agree the entire situation is messed up. We can look at the video and see a man get his life taken. I have not seen anyone say otherwise other than the quote-unquote news. Don't you see what they're trying to do? Why is it that black lives only seem to matter with situations that involve a white person killing a black person, but we stay silent when it comes to blacks killing each other? If black lives truly matter, we as a culture should also start fixing our community within while also speaking out against injustice like Mr. Floyd. How can some of you support this looting? I'm not talking about the protests, I'm talking about the looting, destroying of businesses, some owned by blacks. At this point, it's not about him, it's about self-greed, and again, this doesn't represent the Black Lives Matter, it represents ignorance and selfishness. I'm sick of a white person trying to explain to me how I'm systematically oppressed. Excuse me, come again. How can you tell me about me? Have you lived my life? Those statements of these woke white liberals are actually racist in my opinion. Pretty much stating because of skin I'm born with, I'm already at a disadvantage. When I was born, I think not. I then quoted a speech by Malcolm X, and I'll let you have a listen to it, and then I'll come back in and finish.
In this crooked game of power politics here in America, the Negro, namely the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives, either to get into power or to retain power. Among whites here in America, the political teams are no longer divided into Democrats and Republicans. The whites who are now struggling for control of the American political throne are divided into liberal and conservative camps. The white liberals from both parties cross party lines to work together toward the same goal, and white conservatives from both parties do likewise. The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leader, who sell our people out for a few crumbs of token recognition, token gains, token progress. In the New York Tribune, in an editorial dated February the 5th, 1960, they pointed out that out of 11 million qualified Negro voters, only 2,700,000 actually take time to vote. This means that, roughly speaking, only 3 million out of the 11 million Negroes who are qualified to vote take an active part, and the remaining 8 million remain voluntarily inactive. And yet it is this small minority, the 3 million Negro voters, who help determine who will be the next president. If who will be the next president can be influenced by 3 million Negro voters, it is easy to see why the presidential candidates of both political parties put on such a false show with the Civil Rights Bill and promises of integration. They must impress the 3 million voting Negroes who are the actual integration seekers. And if so much fuss is made over these 3 million integration seekers, what would the presidential candidates have to do to appease the 8 million non-voting Negroes if they ever decided to become politically active? They hold the balance of power. Who are the 8 million non-voting Negroes? What do they want? And why don't they vote? The 3 million Negro voters are the so-called middle-class Negroes, or high-class Negroes, or uppity Negroes, who are referred to by the late Howard University sociology professor E. Franklin Frazier as the black bourgeoisie, who have been educated to think as patriotic individualists with no racial pride whatsoever, who believe in and look forward to the future integrated, intermarried society that is constantly being promised to them by the Negro politician. And therefore, this integration-minded 3 million minority remain an active part of the white-controlled political parties. But it must never be overlooked that these 3 million Negro integration seekers are only a small minority of the 11 million qualified Negro voters. The 8 million non-voting Negroes are the majority, the downtrodden black masses. They have refused to vote. They've refused to take a part in politics because they reject the Uncle Tom approach of the clergy politician leadership that has been handpicked for the so-called Negroes by the white man himself. This clergy politician leadership does not speak for the Negro majority. They don't speak for the black masses. They speak for the black bourgeoisie, the brainwashed, white-minded, middle-class minority, who, because they are ashamed of their race, because they are ashamed of being black and don't want to be identified with black, they are seeking to lose this black identity by mixing and mingling and intermarrying and integrating with the white society. The race problem cannot be solved by listening to the white-minded, brainwashed minority. The white man must try to learn what the black majority wants. The president would be wise to try and learn what the black masses want. And the only way to find this out is by listening to the man who speaks for the black masses. And I can declare to you tonight and to the entire world that the man here in America who speaks for the majority, the downtrodden, dissatisfied black masses, is this same man who so many thousands of our people are flocking toward to see and hear. This same Mr. Muhammad who is labeled by you as a black supremacist and as a racist and as an extremist. If the 3 million middle-class Negroes are casting their ballots for integration and intermarriage, what do the non-voting black masses who are in the majority want? Find out what the black masses want, and then perhaps America's grave race problem can be solved.
So I quoted this speech in that post, and I don't think any person that commented negatively on that post read any of that. They just jumped to parts that they can pick out to argue with me about. So I'm not going to read the entire post. It's longer than I want this episode to be, and I'm just explaining why I changed the name of my podcast. And I think you can understand where I'm going to the responses. Going with this from the responses of the post, it's kind of how I got my idea, and I thought about to change the name, so I'll explain it. So basically I got called, I was told that I was trying to fit in with them, meaning white people, because I have a lot of white friends, but I have a lot of black friends too. You're being Kanye right now in reference to when Kanye went on stage, when Taylor Swift won whatever award she won, and he said that Beyonce had the best video or album, whatever the hell it was, I don't remember. And I got more and more insults, which I really didn't care, but I also got a lot of positive comments from all races in my messenger, so it didn't really bother me. So the thing is, I've always thought about things within the black community, just in general. Always thought how I post, it's not negative. I just feel like if we gonna move forward as a community, we need to fix what's within. With what I do for work, I see a side that a lot of people who post on Facebook don't see. I see the terrible side of what not being or having a community that supports each other can lead to, and or those who I don't know how to say this. I guess those that don't expect much out of life, and it could be a very detriment to their livelihood if it starts off early, and then the environment that you're in is constantly the same, constantly negative, because somebody's always dying at a young age, and you expect that to be your life too. So my whole point is to get young black men and women out of this victimhood mindset that is always in front of our face. So why did I change my podcast name? I was talking to one of my friends who just happens to be white, but I consider him like an older brother. I know him for over 10 years, and he's probably the only person that I will stay up past my bedtime to talk to when the phone rings, and I don't even like talking on the phone, so that says a lot. He's one of the most kind-hearted person that I've probably ever known. He's one of the few people that I can have these types of conversations with in my personal life, and going back and forth with disagreements, or just talking about what's going on with the world, and how we see it, and what do we think about current events and what's our take. So I was talking to him, and he was like, "Man, I saw your Facebook post, and I just commend you because he can't say anything that he wants because he's white, and he would get attacked and labeled as a racist. We talked about this before, me and him, and I was like, yeah. He's like, well, you should start a podcast. And I was like, well, I'm going to be reviewing books that I've read and maybe dibble dabble in like current events. And he's like, yeah, I feel like you can do a little bit more. So going back and looking at one of the responses I told somebody on that post, I don't remember who exactly, but I remember I replied that I was unapologetic when I say something, I won't backtrack. So after not releasing my first episode, You Read What, and now a month after starting this process, I changed the name to Unapologetic with Alan-Micheal. I'll still review books, and I think I'm going to do those on the even number episodes. And every odd number, I would probably do something like this, just talk about current events. Some of the things that I touched on earlier in this episode, I probably would talk about again in further episodes. Just so much going on in the world right now that just very disheartening to even think about it, because the world's going crazy. Nobody loves each other anymore. It's all just hate, and just crazy. So the next episode, I will be reviewing Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Unreason by Dave Rubin. I initially recorded that one to be my first episode. Still got some kinks to work out with this. I'm not very suave with working or recording. I don't even like hearing myself talk, so this is a step. So I don't know when I'm gonna release that one. I'm probably gonna re-record it and tune it up, and I would just re-record it and just make it sound nice. I know this one's gonna be a very rough cut. As I get used to using this program and recording and hearing myself talk, they will get better. So just bear with me. I just wanted to let people know why I changed the name. If you cared, I doubt anybody cares, but this first episode, thanks for tuning in. So until then, be so blunt, people can smoke your truth. Thanks, guys.